Hello there, dear viewer, and welcome to Skyrim, a game about shouting at people until they are dead. This week we have a vengeful, angry Nord blinded by rage and avenging the blasphemy of the White Gold Concordate by slaying any Thalmor person in sight. As a devout worshipper of Talos, he is actually very good at shouting, getting everyone out of his lawn with great ease. He enjoys wearing elven armor and gear like a hunter who prides himself with leather he took off his best prize. He is also built around some very sick feature that exists in vanilla Skyrim, but we use it in conjunction with some very interesting modded enchantment. This basic combo slash technique is to use your elemental fury when dual wielding with one enchanted weapon and one unenchanted weapon. Generally speaking, elemental fury makes your weapon strike like real fast, but only if said weapon is not enchanted. However, if you do dual wield, having one enchanted weapon and one unenchanted in your left hand, preferably, the shout will still increase the speed of your dual wielding power attack. This is awesome for great many reasons. For example, some enchantments can be chance based, like paralysis. If you apply it rapidly many times over, you will reroll the chance for the enchantment to fire up, meaning you get a much better chance for it to happen per combat. But more on that later. I guess his general combat and play styles are a lot like my favorite Elder Scrolls character class, the Scout. Speed and stealth and self-reliance of alchemy and smithing combined with a very satisfying performance in open combat. This time also with many shouts, sometimes many shouts in a row, because we use some Vokrii perk and Summermyst enchantments to reduce the bloody cooldown substantially. So you can tell already this one has a lot of that trademark Bellisaurus synergy. This is a very good example of how I like my Skyrim. If that's up your street, how about you give me a like and subscribe? While we are at it, this build is a part of an ongoing project I share with my friend PC Outcast. He has his own Talos build ready for you, so you can compare the two, pick and choose ideas and so on. Links are in the description. Right, now for the mods. We use some evergreens like Imperious races to make our Nord OP and extra effective against elves. Andromeda Standing Stone for the insanely powerful Lord Stone daily power called Kneel or Be Knelt. A power that fixes the problem of stamina regeneration being locked, but more importantly, sends anyone around you to the ground by causing a minor earthquake. It's a daily power, but sooner or later we will be easily triggering it way more often than once a day, because of course. Unsurprisingly, we also use Vokrii minimalistic perk overhaul, predominantly for its speech perks, enhancing your shouts and cutting down the cooldown in a few exciting ways. These perks will combine nicely with the main cornerstone mod of this build, Wintersun, Faiths of Skyrim. Worshipping Talos in this mod will eventually start removing half of your current shout cooldown whenever an enemy dies within 40 feet. It will also make all your attacks, including damage-dealing shouts, more effective against elves, which can combine with the bonuses gained over time by Nords in Imperious. For purely aesthetic reasons, I also used a bandana from Bandanas of Skyrim or Immersive Armors. It has no impact on the gameplay. We then use some super useful enchantments from Summermyst. Among other things, we need them to remove more shout cooldown at times, but also to trigger our OP daily power much more often than once per day. Lastly, I used Skyrim expanded weaponry in order to get some super cool lightweight axes known as hatchets, and a dagger looking like an even smaller hatchet known as curve blade. This helps in optimizing your stamina spending on power attacks. You really want to power attack all the time with this one. The Lord Stone, while disabling most forms of stamina regeneration, enables power attacking when out of stamina. But as a scout-like agile warrior, we also want to sprint in combat a lot, and here the Lord Stone may become a liability. We will fix this little problem in more than one way, but early to mid-game, a lightweight weapon in your right hand will save you some stamina. Speaking of which, the overall attributes ratio is 4 points of health per 1 of stamina, but go 50-50 until around level 20, so until you reach 200 base stamina. From there, just drop all the remaining level ups in health. The race is an Imperious Nord, duh. It allows you to choose sworn enemies against whom you will get a substantial damage buff upon reaching certain levels. I suggest choosing Altmer for roleplay reasons. This guy can cut through dozens of Thalmor, literally. I spawned like 30 of those buggers via console on Legendary, and it was a walk in the park, because this bonus against the Altmer will stack with the one provided by Wintersun Talos warship. Other than that, Orcs and Bretons seem to be decent choices, especially that you could probably also become a Forsworn Slayer, because Skyrim is of course for the Nords. If you plan on spending some time on Solstheim, you may replace Orcs with Dark Elves. You will also get a buff to your damage output dependent on missing health. High health will be helpful in managing this mechanics. The Standing Stone is first the Warrior and later the Lord. It is paramount that you discover all the Standing Stones at least once you switch to the Lord Stone, as it will unlock the amazingly OP power of Kneel or be knelt. The power causes tremors around you, repeatedly knocking your enemies to the ground and absorbing a little bit of stamina from them. This is extremely useful as the Lord Stone blocks stamina regeneration in combat. Now we will also combine that power with the Power Unleashed enchantment on your axe or hatchet. This effect will grant you a small chance per hit of triggering your currently selected power without actually spending its daily use. This is why we combine that with the Elemental Fury shenanigans as mentioned, but for convenience I would advise to only activate the Lord Stone once you have some means of increasing your stamina and regaining it without regeneration, like when you obtain the Link Health and Stamina enchantment, because late game it will result in 100 points of extra stamina for you, or after you unlock the 100 perk of Victory Rush in one-handed, which will restore your stamina on kills. Some decent restore stamina potions and the Tonal Harmony speech perk are the bare minimum requirement to make the switch from Warrior to Lord without a pain in the arse. Tonal Harmony restores your attributes when you shout. And of course, our deity of choice is Talos, giving us some extra damage against all types of elves, and later upon reaching devotee status, the amazing ability of Dragon of the North, halving your remaining shout cooldown whenever something dies nearby. This will be combined with quite a few things, with speech perks reducing the cooldown when you power attack, and you will power attack all the time, and the perk giving you a 1 in 4 chance of immediately resetting the cooldown entirely after shouting, and then with 2 items of Deep Breath, each providing another random chance of resetting your cooldown entirely. And lastly, with the Blessing and Amulet of Talos, granting a total of 40% constant cooldown reduction. In a nutshell, you will shout freely and in rapid consecution. You could of course use the Restoration Loop exploit. Sure, I just like it this way more. It seems more legit and deserved, but it's your call. Now for the skills, we need one-handed, light armor, sneak, speech, alchemy, enchanting and smithing. Yep, all 3 crafting skills, I know. Well, look at the bright side, all 3 will only require a few perk points to be useful to the build, so let's maybe start with these buggers. We want mastery in enchanting, so that with some high-end enchanting potions we can get close to a 10% chance on our Power Unleashed effect. I also took Weapon Enchanter for the same reason, but it makes little difference with such small base values. Our main technique for triggering Power Unleashed is simply to attack real fast, real often, constantly rerolling the chance of kneel or be knelt to trigger. In smithing we simply take the perks necessary to craft and fully improve the elven armor, and in alchemy we go for the bare minimum of mastery and benefactor, meaning we will eventually be able to craft some extremely useful smithing and enchanting potions, but also magic and elemental resistance potions, which we badly need because no alteration and no room in the item loadout. But also we have some use for Fortify Alteration or even Fortify Distraction potions. Fortify Alteration will extend the duration of the slow time shout, which is used frequently here, and Fortify Distraction can improve the damage of offensive shouts such as Fire Breath. We want to enhance our Thuu'um with all the relevant perks in speech. Most of that has already been mentioned in the beginning of the video. All the perks synergize with something, or in case of tonal harmony can offset the Lord Stone stamina regeneration ban. The perk heals all your attributes when you shout, and so it means the most early in the game, so as soon as you have your first Thuu'um ready to use, you should also unlock tonal harmony. The cornerstone of the build is dual power attack, so let's improve it with all the dual wielding perks in one-handed. Dual flurry is particularly important because it makes the dual attacks faster, meaning it makes the insane combo of super fast elemental fury attacks with the power unleashed effect on your right hand weapon. It makes it all even better. You are now virtually guaranteed to fire up, kneel or be knelt at least once per fight, and you hardly ever need more than that. Then we take dagger and axe perks in the middle with only one rank of grievous wounds and fangs. Spitting Cobra, a dagger perk making power attacks with dagger deal 3 times critical damage and apply a little bit of DOT, is great with an axe as your other weapon because Grievous Wounds, the advanced axe perk, will make all enemies you hit with an axe 15% weaker to physical damage, including the triple damage of that dagger. This makes some right hand power attack perks unattractive to the build, as they enhance specific types of power attacks, sideways and forward, and with the build near completion you will mostly just do standing dual power attacks. I still opted for Valorous Charge and Crater Maker for that immensely satisfying combat opener I enjoy so much when you execute an overwhelming forward leap attack after a silent roll. Of course, Furious Strength enhancing all your power attacks with extra damage dependent on your current stamina is as always very welcome. So let's think for a minute. Let's just sit and relax and think of what exactly happens now when you dual power attack with this build being complete. You get some extra damage from stamina. Yes, if your opponent blocks with a shield, then you deal an extra 6 times your damage and make them drop the shield. You then apply some bleeding damage and deal 3 times extra damage of your dagger. For the following power attacks, your target will be 15% weaker to your weapon damage. Yes, you get a 50% chance to stagger and get another 50% of your base damage because of dual savagery. You gain some neat damage resistance for the duration of your power attacks. You then get a 10% chance to trigger kneel or be knelt with each axe attack, causing some major imbalance to the enemy footing. Finally, you remove a bit of your shout cooldown with each hit. With the lightning speed of your power attacks, all of that happens all the time at terrifying rate. But we are not done yet. You can do pretty much all of that as a sneak attack, because Escape Artist is the most balanced perk there is, of course. Let's look at the sneak perks. Yes, the Elf Slayer is a hunter at heart. He uses most of his talents to hunt down elves for fun, but he could use them to feed a family. Silent Roll and Dodge Roll serve the same purpose as always. Dodge Roll is wonderful against spells, since we hardly have the room for resistance in the item loadout, so the ability to briefly ignore all damage is a bliss, especially that you can do it as part of your combat opener with a Valorous Charge at the end of the roll. In the middle we need to go up to Assassin's Blade, of course, because why waste a good dagger? With the speed of your dual power attack you can easily pull off 2 hits before you are noticed, 15 times for the dagger and 6 times the damage for the axe. It's very hard to calculate all that variables and critical damage and whatnot, but it is safe to say we are above 2500 damage on such a sneak power attack. But this is still not enough, and we still have some perk points lying around, so light armor. On the right, we want to reach the evasive sprint, which halves all incoming damage when you sprint, which is why I needed all the effort to make sure I have the means of regaining stamina. In the middle, you could stop at light armor training. I did allow myself to take a few more perks there. Tough height to support the roleplay of a hardened scout who fears no poison or disease. Keen senses for purely aesthetic reasons. I wanted all my perks to work without a helmet because otherwise my haircut would be wasted. And matching sets so I don't have to worry that much about maximizing my smithing. Either way, you will get close to the armor cap sooner or later, I'm sure. Here is a list of items for the build in the late game. You have your Amulet of Talos, twice the Deep Breath enchantment on head and armor slots, Fortify one-handed ×2 on gauntlets and boots, and the Link health and stamina ring. A hatchet or an axe of power unleashed is your only enchanted weapon. It will all work best after you switch from the warrior stone to the lord stone and obtain some ways of restoring stamina. Most of those enchantments are stupidly easy to get. They will eventually pop up in random loot or a trader inventory. However, link health and stamina can be utterly annoying to obtain. It starts showing up late in the game, and even then it's rather rare and only exists on rings if memory serves, which means you may need to resort to exploits to assure its arrival in your world. Worst case scenario, you can always use guaranteed locations, a little mod I made specifically for situations like this. Now, early in the game you should remember about stamina regeneration and magic resistance. Late game you can sneak kill all the spellcasters or just use Become Ethereal Shout. Which brings me neatly along to the list of shouts. I'm only listing the most defining ones here, as with this concept and all the cool cooldown reductions you can by all means go completely ballistic with shouts, using any and all of them depending on the situation and your current mood. But Elemental Fury will be the one enabling your entire combat style due to the terrifying combo of a non-magical dagger and the Axe of Power Unleashed. Slow time, when used with Elemental Fury, is basically a lightning speed combo allowing you to destroy multiple enemies before the slow time effect runs out. Drain Vitality is a good one to obtain early, especially the first word, as it absorbs stamina, the attribute you most vitally need absorbed. And Cyclone was used to disrupt entire groups, very useful when surrounded or before a surprise attack from hiding. And I would say that's all she wrote. This is a stupidly effective build with all my favorite gameplay bits: speed, stackable shouts, insanely high damage output, crowd control synergy. I only have one question to my regular viewers: is this better than my Sword Mage? Because I feel like it's in ways better. It is as effective and fun to play, but requires less grind and less patience to become completely functional, balanced, yes. Now remember to share, like and subscribe, come back for more, have all the fun in the world, and we will see each other again, guys. Bye bye.